West Virginia, a place where the mountains are ancient and the shadows feel alive. Beneath the green canopy of Appalachia, stories have passed from lips to ears for generations. Of creatures not found in textbooks, of strange lights above the hills, and of buildings where the screams never stopped. This episode, we bring you 3 of the darkest legends from the Mountain State. A winged creature with glowing eyes that appeared before tragedy. That's right, the Mothman. An encounter in the woods that brought a town to its knees. And a hospital where the forgotten still cry out from within the stone walls. So dim the lights and buckle up for our 10th episode. I'm Drifter Voyages, and this is the 50th Room Podcast.
Appalachian shadows long and wide, stretch through time where the ghosts still hide. 3 tales carved into mountain stone, where the living pray they die alone. West Virginia keeps what it can't forgive, not everything dead forgets how to live.
Now, before we get started, I just wanted to say something real quick. We're 10 episodes in, 1/5 of the way through all of the 50 states. And I'm so thankful that I started doing this. I've made so many paranormal friends along the way so far. And I never, ever expected to get as much support as I have been from all of you. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. We still have so many more stories to explore. We're nowhere near finished. All right, let's get to it. In the fall of 1966, the town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, was like any other small American town. Tucked between the Ohio River and the thick Appalachian woods, it was quiet, familiar, a place where you left your doors unlocked and everyone knew your name. But something was coming, something that the town, to this day, hasn't really been able to explain. It was something with wings. It started with 2 couples, Roger and Linda, and Steve and Mary. On the night of November 15th, they were driving along a potholed road near the old World War II ammunitions plant, known to locals as the TNT area. They weren't looking for trouble, just killing time. But as their headlights swept past the rusted ruins, they caught something standing near the old North Power Plant. It wasn't a person. It was 10 feet tall, winged, with glowing red eyes. And worst of all, it moved. So the couples floored it, and they sped away, but the creature followed. Even at 100 miles per hour, it kept pace, gliding, not flapping. Its wings barely moved. Just a smooth, unnatural chase in the moonlight. When they reached town, the creature peeled off and vanished. The couples told the sheriff, and the sheriff didn't laugh. Over the next 13 months, the sightings multiplied. Over 100 reported encounters. Some claimed to see it perching on rooftops, staring silently. Others heard the flutter of massive wings above them in the dark. Pets went missing. Television signals warped into static when it drew near. Then came the phones, ringing with strange tones and clicks. Voices speaking in mechanical stutters, warning to stay quiet. The town of Point Pleasant wasn't just seeing things. It was also being watched by something. It was around this time that journalist and author John Keel arrived. He had been tracking reports of strange phenomena across the country. UFO sightings, strange lights, and something darker. Keel interviewed dozens of Point Pleasant locals. Their stories lined up, the red eyes, the wings, the feeling of being studied. But the stories didn't stop there. People reported being visited by strange men. Tall, pale, dressed in black suits. They asked odd questions. They didn't blink. One local described their eyes as wet marbles. Another swore one didn't have fingerprints. They claimed to be government agents, but they weren't. Keel would later write about all of it in his 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies. He believed the town was at the center of a complex web of phenomena, not just cryptid sightings, but something more profound, something interdimensional. One firefighter swore he saw the creature perched on a power line, its wings stretched wide, unmoving, as it stared down at the street below. A mother woke in the night to find the Mothman outside her window, just watching. Its eyes glowed like coals in the dark. When she screamed, it didn't flinch. It simply blinked and disappeared. These weren't stories made for campfires. They were confessions. Then came the day no one in Point Pleasant will ever forget. December 15th, 1967, 5 p.m. The Silver Bridge, a suspension bridge connecting Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, Ohio, was packed with rush hour traffic and Christmas shoppers. Without warning, it groaned, snapped, and then there was the fall. 31 vehicles plunged into the frigid Ohio River. 46 people died. Some were never found. It was one of the worst bridge disasters in American history. And the Mothman was completely gone. As a matter of fact, it was never seen in Point Pleasant again. Now, because of that, some people believe the creature was an omen, a warning of the tragedy to come. Like the banshee of Irish folklore, whose cries signal impending death, or the black shuck of English legend, a ghostly hound whose appearance foretells doom. Others say the Mothman wasn't a warning, but a cause, or perhaps something else entirely. Maybe a cryptid, an alien scout, a time traveler, a tulpa born of fear, made real by belief. Or a government psyops gone wrong. Whatever it was, it left scars, and it left questions. Point Pleasant still remembers to this day. There's a statue now standing downtown, silver wings spread wide, red eyes fixed forward. Every year, thousands gather for the Mothman Festival, a celebration of the unknown, and a tribute to those lost on the bridge. But those who were there, the ones who saw it, they don't call it a celebration. They call it a reminder. Maybe Mothman was never meant to be understood. Maybe it was only ever meant to be seen. Once. A flicker in the dark. A warning in the wind. And maybe, if we listen closely enough, we'll hear its wings flying through the air once again.
The hills roll like sleeping giants in pain, veins of coal soaked with rain. The fog rolls in like an old regret, whispers things we can't forget.
Point Pleasant met something it couldn't explain. But what if the thing didn't fly to us? What if it fell? Our next story takes us to Braxton County, where in 1952, something came down and something came out.
Appalachian shadows long and wide stretch through time where the ghosts still hide. Three tales carved into mountain stone, where the living pray they die alone. West Virginia keeps what it can't forgive. Not everything dead forgets how to live.
September 12th, 1952. Flatwoods, West Virginia. What began as a quiet Friday night in Braxton County turned into something far stranger than any ghost story passed down through the hollers. It started with a light, a bright pulsing glow that streaked across the twilight sky, fiery red, leaving a tail of smoke, and then, abruptly, it crashed. That alone might have been chalked up to a meteor, a lucky glimpse of something celestial. But what happened next? Well, that's harder to explain. It was around 7:15 p.m. when two brothers, Edward and Fred, ages 12 and 13, spotted the light descend over a nearby ridge. They ran home, breathless, dragging their friend Tommy behind them, and told their mother, Kathleen, what they saw. Instead of brushing them off, she rallied a small group, 3 boys, a National Guardsman named Eugene Lemon, and even the family dog. And they hiked towards the source of the crash, a hillside near G. Bailey Fisher's farm. The group crested the hill expecting debris, maybe a downed plane. But what they found was something else. In the fall darkness, Lemon's flashlight scanned the tree line. The beam froze. There, standing beneath the twisted limbs of a partially burned oak, was a creature. Must have been roughly 9 to 10 feet tall, cloaked in a metallic-like structure that shimmered like armor. Its face, if it was a face, glowed orange. 2 red eyes burned like coal. The shape of its head, spade-like, as if crowned or shielded, framed the horror. Then a sharp hiss, mechanical, piercing. The air turned foul, thick with the scent of burning sulfur. The group fled, coughing, choking, stumbling over each other as their dog howled and vanished into the trees. None of them forgot what they saw. Decades later, those same witnesses, now elderly, still tremble when speaking of it. One described the creature's gaze as inhuman, intelligent but not kind. Lemon, who fainted that night, would later suffer from reoccurring nightmares for years. Others developed strange symptoms in the days following the encounter: nausea, swelling of the throat, and chemical irritation in the eyes and lungs. Doctors offered no explanation, but something had touched them, something real. What makes this story stranger still than what we've already discussed is what happened next. Within hours, soldiers arrived. Uniformed men from the military carted off the hill. Locals say they were told to stay clear. Radiation tests were conducted. Soil was scraped and carted away. Interviews were conducted, then hushed. A reporter from Charleston claimed his photos from the site were mysteriously fogged when developed. The official line? Nothing unusual, just hysteria. But Flatwoods remembered. So something interesting is Flatwoods wasn't alone. In the early 1950s, America was gripped by a wave of UFO hysteria. Reports of strange lights, saucer-shaped crafts, and bizarre creatures flooded police stations and newspaper offices across the country. But the Flatwoods sightings stood apart because of the witnesses. 7 of them, all describing the same thing. Skeptics have tried to offer an explanation. A barn owl. The shape of the creature, they said, resembled an owl perched on a branch, its eyes glowing red in the flashlight beams. The noxious fumes, perhaps wild panic mixed with the lingering stench of smoldering brush. But the witnesses, they weren't buying it. The owl was never 10 feet tall. The hissing sound wasn't natural. And the damage to the trees, burned, stripped, was never fully explained. Modern investigators have trekked to that hill many times. Some report strange electromagnetic readings near the old crash site. Soil samples, according to independent labs, showed unusual chemical compounds and elevated radiation levels. Some say the grass there never grew back quite the same. Others report faint mechanical humming at night, rising from the ridge. And then, there are the dreams. Locals still whisper of strange lights that hover just beyond the trees, silent and watchful. Some say the creature still visits in visions, standing at the foot of their beds, its head tilted, its breathing mechanical. What landed on that hilltop in 1952 may have left, or it may have never truly gone. Maybe it was never alive in the way we understand life. Maybe it wasn't a creature at all, but a probe, a sential, a message. Or maybe, just maybe it was a warning. Because years later, only a few miles south, another creature would be seen. This time with wings and red eyes, and a town that would never be the same.
In Flatwoods town, the air went still, a hiss, a flash on the darkened hill.
Not all horrors fly through the sky or even fall through them. Some are buried behind brick and barred windows. Our final story takes us to one of the most supposedly haunted buildings in America, where the cries never ended.
But still they say the woods remember that night in early, eerie September. The trees all lean a certain way, as if they know, but won't quite say what's buried deep in Appalachian dirt, knows every name and every hurt.
There are places in this world that were never meant to be kind. Places where suffering wasn't just an unfortunate outcome, but part of the design. In the hills of Weston, West Virginia, surrounded by forests and forgotten roads, stands the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. That's definitely a mouthful, that's for sure. A gothic leviathan of stone and shadow. Built in the 1860s, it was meant to be a beacon of progress, a sanctuary for the mentally ill. But what it became was something far darker. At its peak, it held over 2,600 patients, in a space built for only 250. And by the time it closed its doors in 1994, hundreds had died within its walls. Some from illness, others from abuse, and some from things no medical journal could explain. The story begins not with a patient, but a nurse. She worked in the East Wing in the 1950s. Years later, she recounted the tale to her loved ones, who would go on to speak publicly about it. The nurse had been preparing medications in one of the quieter wards when she saw something in the reflection of the medicine cabinet. A little girl, standing behind her. The nurse turned to no one, looked again, and there she was in the reflection. Same dark dress, same solemn expression. The child wasn't on the patient roster, and obviously wasn't staff, and yet she kept appearing, always in reflections, and never anywhere else. The nurse began to avoid reflections entirely. Trans-Allegheny was constructed during the Civil War, its walls quarried by hand, its halls echoing with idealism. It was based on the Kirkbride Plan, a vision for mental health care that emphasized light, air, and architecture as healing forces. But as the decades passed and demand grew, the dream collapsed. By the 1950s, patients slept in hallways. Staff were overwhelmed. And treatments included ice baths, insulin-induced comas, and lobotomies performed en masse. And amid all that suffering, the stone walls held it in, but not, it seems, for forever. Now I want you to close your eyes with me, and let's take a walk in the halls of the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. We'll start with Ward F. Visitors reported disembodied screams at all hours, shadows that crawl across the walls but vanish when chased. One former patient's journal described it as the place the sky forgot. Next, we'll go over to the lobotomy room. Here, sudden temperature drops have been recorded, often within a 3-foot radius of the operating chair. One paranormal researcher collapsed after 14 minutes inside, later saying, "It felt like something reached into my chest and held it closed." Now, let's move over to room 369. There, a man was beaten to death by his own roommate. His body discovered days later, mutilated beyond recognition. During an EVP session in this very room, a voice, low and raspy, replied to a question about justice with only 3 words. "He deserved it." Now, I will say that not every spirit is angry in this asylum. Some are simply waiting. Lily is one of the most talked about hauntings in Trans-Allegheny. A child spirit, said to be no older than 9. Visitors have reported music boxes playing by themselves, child's laughter in empty rooms, and a ball that rose towards them then stops at their feet. Many believe Lily was abandoned here by her parents, perhaps never officially committed. She died during an influenza outbreak, lost in the system, and buried in the records. But she seems to linger, looking for company and looking for kindness. Now, modern day ghost hunting teams have captured EVPs of women crying, whispering, "Don't cut me." A team member was scratched across the chest, 3 perfect marks, diagonal. Ghost hunting teams have reported doors swinging open and then closing behind them. One explorer reported waking up after fainting in the hydrotherapy room. He had been alone, except the audio picked up whispering all around him. None of it was in English. And then there's the phantom room, a room that doesn't appear on any blueprint. Visitors describe its layout identically: pale green walls, a broken gurney, and a mirror that doesn't reflect the present. Some who find it don't make it back in time for lockup. And the staff? They won't go looking. Places like this asylum, they remember. The stone absorbs the sorrow, and sometimes it leaks out into the present day. At Trans-Allegheny, the lights may be off, the records shredded, and the doors locked. But listen closely and you'll hear them. The patients, the nurses, the ones who never got to leave. And if you stand outside room 369 long enough, you might just hear a voice whisper, "I'm still here."
Appalachian shadows long and wide stretch through time where the ghosts still hide.
And there you have it. 3 supposedly true scary tales from the hills of West Virginia. And those hills, they don't just echo with song and story. I believe they also echo with warning. From Point Pleasant to the skies over Flatwoods to the cold stone of the asylum, these stories aren't just folklore. They're reminders that some things come back and some things never leave. Thank you for listening to this episode of the 50th Room. If you are enjoying our episodes, then please leave a 5-star review. Those reviews help more than you know. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And if you have tales of your own, then please send them in. I love reading your stories. Until next time, stay cautious, stay curious, and remember, keep your eyes on the sky and your ears on the silence. You never know what you might see or what you might hear lurking in the shadows. Stay haunted.